What's up, guys? My name is David Daniel Saxon Winter. This is the Black Literary Fallout channel, and I want to talk to you guys today about hate speech and about what hate speech is. I recently got a community warning on YouTube because of a poem that I wrote called White Lives Matter. Um, I want to kind of dive into that because my intention was not to I guess write anything hateful. I only wrote the obvious things that were obvious to me. Um, so I want to kind of break down first and foremost. I feel disappointed that this poem could be considered hate speech, which to me, I had no intentions of writing hate speech. I only had the intention of entertaining, educating, and providing people an insight into David Daniel Saxon Winter's mind state. I tried to be satirical. I tried to be kind of funny. I tried to be vulgar. I tried to be um, insightful. And I was very careful with my words. And so, but still, can't hear the poem on YouTube because it's taken down. And I appealed the removal of the poem, but the removal was upheld and the appeal was rejected. Um, so the removal will be upheld. So you will not be able to hear this poem on YouTube. But I kind of want to break down exactly what was in it, and I'll let you guys decide whether or not this was hate speech or not. So I don't know. Maybe this is a new channel. This is a channel that I'm using to sort of express myself. I grew up wanting to be um, an artist, a writer, a poet. I was into hip hop heavily, and I've always been able to write and express myself in words, rhymes, raps, and as I've gotten older, as a black man, you can't rap when you're 45 years old, so I write poetry and I try to express myself, in different various ways, and I'm trying to do that here with the assistance of jazz, with the assistance of the many books that I've collected over the years. Um, so hopefully I can continue to entertain and I can dive deep inside the psyche of David Daniel Saxon Winter, a black man who lives in America, with no intention whatsoever to write hate speech or um, to how do I explain myself, to offend, although art is subjective and art is supposed to cause some sort of reaction. Of course, nobody wants to be canceled, but art um, art is subjective, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes you cater to people's feelings. I have no interest in catering to people's feelings, but I do want to be very objective in my writings and to explore every corner of my mind. Um, so, so, so I wrote this poem, right? It's called White Lives Matter, and I saw, and this all started because of I saw Kanye West and Candace Owens wearing White Lives Matters T-shirts, and I really didn't know what the big deal was. But and I recently looked up White Lives Matter. I know that there were some hate groups that were trying to form um, rallies and whatnot. I think those groups can be considered hateful. I think they were like maybe the Proud Boys and like some other groups that are on the fringes of hate, for like real hate. That withstanding, I saw where Kanye West made a reference to Tonya Harding's but I didn't know why. I just saw the headlines. Kanye West, wears White Lives Matter T-shirt, and he mentioned Tanya Harding. Tanya Harding. So in the very beginning of my poem, I mentioned Tanya Harding's vagina matters, and I only said that because I thought it was funny. Um, because she's a human being. She has body parts, and every part of her matters. And that's where I wrote that, and that's where I was coming from. I was trying to be funny. I didn't think that that was hateful. I just thought it was obvious. We all have body parts. Every part of us matters. We are born with God's given gifts, and God gives us all functioning parts that perform unique functions for us, and why not? You know. All right, the next part of my poem I wrote about ex-Black Panthers who say that it's obvious that white lives matters. Um, that was another statement put out there by Kanye West. I think he said that his father, who is an ex-Black Panther, said that it's obvious that white lives matter. So, um, yeah, I mean, I mean, that's not a lie. I don't see how that's hateful to say that or to point that out. I mean, you know, and if I'm being fair, I think that, Black Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, Mexican Lives Matters. I think that it's all subjective, um, and it's all depending upon the context of why something or someone may feel like they don't matter given a particular situation. For example, if a black kid is driving through a nice neighborhood and he's pulled over by a cop and he's being harassed, he may feel at that moment that his life doesn't matter. If the cops pull out a gun on him, things escalate and things happen, he may feel like his life doesn't matter. Life doesn't mean something. But then again, you may have an actual black person who lives in the neighborhood, who drives through that neighborhood every single day and never gets pulled over by the cops because they actually live there. They look like they belong there. And that person will never have an issue. So, of course, they wouldn't feel that way. So that's why that sentence is there. The next sentence I wrote was about Henry Ford, how he built American cars, and how now these cars are being used today. Drunk drivers get into accidents and harm people. You use those cars to go pick up your groceries. Just recently in Houston, this girl was shot, this rapper. These guys drove by and shot her. So in this poem I wrote that, you Negroes can use these cars to go, do your drive-bys, which still, to me, isn't hate speech. Just point out the obvious, because that's something that I literally just seen on the news last week. And I wrote that down. The moment I saw that, I wrote it down. So, cars are used to get us from A to Z. So, but then there's people out there who use cars. I've seen a YouTube video where a woman was literally trying to drive down run over her boyfriend on YouTube. On YouTube, mind you, she's in her car, and she's trying to attack him, run him over, and kill him in a video on YouTube. And she misses him and hits the building, their apartment complex, and she misses him, thankfully. But again, she's literally trying to kill him on YouTube. But again, you can watch that on YouTube. But I guess I can't say that Negroes use cars for drive-bys in a poem. But nevertheless, maybe that's hate speech. Maybe to me it's not. It's just pointing out a fact that of something that really happened. That something has really been talked about and that has happened. All right. So anyway, next sentence I wrote about President Trump, who I said he's the trumpet, which was a play on words. I said that President Trump was a trumpet that plays to the heartstrings of poor white trash. And I've seen in many spaces, not just on YouTube, but in the news and other places where people say that Donald Trump is a racist and that which I don't believe that he's a racist. I think he's an opportunist. I think that he really is just taking advantage of the situation. He's a very smart man. He's a businessman, and it's fairly obvious if you look at. I think that there's this show on Comedy Central where I think it's Kepler, the Kepler Report, and he's going out and he's talking to all these. I think he calls them Trumpers or whatever he calls them, and he's basically says that this is poor white trash. These people. These are the kind of people who put Trump in office, and he's having these really funny little scenarios where he's asking them questions that a normal person should be able to answer, but they can't really answer some of these questions. And then there's other like really funny like little scenarios, and he makes it really entertaining. And so, in one of his shows, he mentioned that Trump plays to their heartstrings. So again, I put that in a poem, and I also put Bill Clinton in a poem, and I mentioned that he got a blowjob, and I didn't say that word. I said he got his dick sucked in the White House, which he did. So that's pretty much a fact, and I think both of those men are extremely smart men. I think they took advantage of their situations. In Trump's case, he's taken advantage of poor people, primarily poor white people, and Bill Clinton took advantage of a young girl because he's in a position of power, and he was able to do that, and he didn't get away with it, but he took advantage of a girl, and I put that in a poem, and I didn't mean for that to be hate speech. It's just part of history. So, and I pointed that out in a poem, and maybe that's the part that's hate speech. I don't know, but I didn't intend it to be that way. I just intended to point out the obvious or something that I've seen or heard. It's not an attack on either one of those men. It's really just pointing out the things that you've seen and heard, things that are written in history. So, yeah. Next part I wrote about my grandmother's house, right? And my grandmother, she got a HUD house. I think it was a HUD house, but she got a house built for free. She didn't have to pay for it, and it was some white people who gifted her a house, and I mentioned that, and I said that those white boys built your mama's house, which they were white people, they were white men who built my grandmother's house, and they gave her a free house, and she just passed away, but that house has been handed down to my aunt, and it was built and given to my grandmother by really good people, and it was a really good organization. I think the HUD is a really good organization, but I think it was HUD. I can't remember the name of the organization, but it was in Alabama, and my grandmother got this house, and she didn't pay a dime for it. And I would go out there and watch these people building this house when I was a kid, and it was all these white guys out there building this house, and they built it for her for free. so I put that in a poem, and I don't know what part of that is hateful, but that's just true, and I also mentioned in this poem that there were some good white people who donated to a charity, and my wife owns a charity, and in this charity there's a lot of people who donate to the charity, and I'll never forget this one lady who donated to our charity. She's on my wife's tennis team, and she said, I don't really care what it's about, don't even care, just take the money. She wrote a check. It was for about $300 or something. And my wife was trying to explain to her what the charity was for, but she was like, I don't really care, here, just take the check. so I put that in a poem, and maybe that's the context of it. And again, nothing hateful in there from my point of view, but again, other people that we're talking about here who have to make decisions, and that's my point of view. And to me, there's something hateful in that. Please let me know. I'll be happy to hear about it. Um, and then there was another part of where I went in to talk about girls who perform yoga on spandex on YouTube. Now, this is a very interesting part because these yoga videos, if you guys have ever seen them, these things are very, very, very interesting to me because they borderline on porn, in my personal opinion. And most of them are these cute little white girls from. There's this one channel called, I think, Russian Yoga or something like that. But there's several. If you just go to YouTube and just put in yoga, and you'll see these girls performing these um, stretches that are borderline porn. If you don't get aroused from that, if you're just unless you're not attracted to cute white girls, then I don't know um, a man who would not get aroused from that. And I mentioned that, in the poem. I didn't think that there was anything hateful about that. But again, I had a statement in there about that and, masturbating and whatnot. And maybe that part is hateful. I don't know. But to me, I'm just, again, pointing out the obvious. But in my mind, there's nothing hateful in that statement. Um, if anything, those videos are a blessing. um, if anything, they're very entertaining and check them out. Yeah, they are very interesting videos. Um, okay, and the next statement, my grandmother was a big time Christian before she passed, and she believed that Jesus was white. And whenever someone would say, Jesus was black, she was like, well, not my Jesus. was that was my grandma. She, those were her exact words, and I'll never forget that. Um, you know, she believed Jesus was white, long hair, blue eyes, and she loved him. And she died a Christian woman. She died in that house that those white folks built for her for free. And she died without a racist bone in her body. You know, I I learned a lot from her, and I think I carry that same spirit. You know, and I think that people are just people. I don't believe that all people are the same. I think that there's good people and there's bad people in this world. So I think there's, and another part of that sentence I wrote about policemen who didn't shoot Grandpa. You know, you know, they checked his license, checked his registration, and they let him go. And that's more of a reference to myself because I've been pulled over several times by police, and I've never gotten anything other than a ticket. And it's always because I always have my registration, my license available, and I always just, I'm courteous, I'm nice, and I don't have an attitude with the policeman. I let him do his job, and I go home safe. And I don't see what's hateful about that. That's just, that's just my experience. Um, and I wrote that, and I don't, again, nothing hateful in that from my point of view. But again, I don't own YouTube. All right, so again, um, the next sentence I talked about Candace Owen and Kanye West, who live in abundance because of white men like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and what's the kid who owns Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook, Metaverse. These are the people who have paved the way for people like myself and other people to have careers on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, and all of the social media stuff has been created by some of the smartest people on earth to allow people who would otherwise be, somewhere on a construction site or working at a fast food restaurant or in retail or struggling in college, trying to find a career somewhere else, but instead, um, these people have given all of us this tool, this wonderful tool called social media, to be able to make a living and a career out of just being. And I think that social media has played a large role in bringing people together in good ways. And I think that that's only going to get better. And I think that that's something that I think that that might be a bigger threat to evil in the world, social media, because we're able to bring people together from all around the world, from Africa to China, to bring them together to have a better understanding of one another. So I don't see that as anything but a good thing, right? And and they made a way for us Negroes to make money, otherwise we would be, and I did mention, otherwise we'd be picking cotton at Sam's Club, because that's what I feel like I'm doing right now. I have a job where, to me, it just feels like slavery. I really don't even enjoy working anymore. I like to do other things. It just feels like, picking cotton and baking cookies. What they used to say back in the days, time to go make the cookies or something like that. Well, in the black community, we always say, well, it's time to go pick the cotton. That's what we say when we say we're on our way to work. So, because it just feels like slavery. But again, that's just a cultural thing that, people from my community, we say, uh, it's more satire than hate, but, and again, who am I to choose? That's just a cultural thing, um, from where I'm from. And then I go on to the next statement. Um, I had some hardwood floors put into my house, my old house, and the lady who done it, this white lady, she gave us a discount, and a big time discount, about 25% off, because everybody that we were going to was like, their prices were just outrageous. And this one lady that we met, she gave us a huge discount. She did our floors, and now we're building another house, and now she's putting in the floors to our new house. And I'm just really appreciative of her. Her name is Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. If you ever listen to this, I love you. I think you're a wonderful person, and thank you for working with us and being the wonderful person that you are. And I put that in my poem, and I don't know what's hateful about that, but again, someone thought that maybe that was the sentence that was hateful. Um, and then I mentioned Barack Obama, whose his white mother gave birth to him, Andrew Tate, who had a white mom, and Meghan Merkel, who had a white father. And I mentioned that white lives matter because of those people's parents. Obama, Andrew Tate, and Meghan Merkel's, they're mulattoes, they're biracial. So Barack Obama especially was the president of the United States of America, and he had a white mother. So I was merely pointing out that white lives matter, especially Barack's mom, because she gave birth to a president, a black president, which in the black community, Barack Obama is almost God level. So nothing but love for him and his family. Um, Again, people are able to build relationships. It doesn't matter where you come from, what color your skin is, what your background is. People are able to build relationships despite all of those things. It's all about love, man, not skin color. Anyway, and I go on to mention, Frederick Douglass and Malcolm X. I think that if you're American, especially if you're an American black, then you've probably part of your elixir is having some mixed race ancestry in your blood. So, and in my poem, I just mentioned that mulattoes. There's a lot of mulattoes in our history that have done great things, and I mentioned a lot of them by name. And I also included Patricia Roberts Harris, who is she was like the first black woman to sit in a a number of offices back in like the, I don't know, man, 50s, 60s. I can't remember. Um, I just kind of strode across her name in one of my encyclopedias, and I just thought that she was a pretty interesting black woman, and she looked like she could have been biracial. So I just included her in this poem. All right. Next statement, I talked about this one point where this one part where I talked about my son plays golf, and I remember I'll never forget at this we went to this clubhouse, this country club. I think it was well, I won't say the name of the country club, but we went to this country club, and my son plays golf, and we were, he's in a tournament, and we were getting all golf carts, and I got my golf cart, and or else I was walking to get my golf cart, and there was these three little white kids. They were three boys, and they were just talking, and I walked by. I was probably about 5, 10 feet away from them, and I was walking by, and I heard one of them say, "Black lives don't matter." And he kind of said it in a funny way, but I kind of ignored it, and I just kept walking. Um, because, kids are going to be kids, and um, he's actually one of the kids that's on my son's golf team. And afterwards, I thought about it. I was like, well, maybe I should have stopped and said something. But then again, I said, you know what? Kids are going to be kids. My son is in an he's in an exclusive club playing golf at a country club. How many little black boys get to do that in America? Not a lot. So we're in this very exclusive club, and this is one of the situations that I ran across, and I didn't even say anything about it. I just like kept on walking. I didn't mention it to anybody. This is the first time that I've ever actually mentioned it at all. I actually just wrote it in this poem, and again, those were not my words. They were the words of this little kid. And this he's actually on my son's team, and he ended up being um, partnering. He partnered with my son a couple of times, and I think we may have won that day. But anyway, this was just a scenario where, look, kids are going to be kids, and this kid made a joke, and I've never been this person who has been, this loudmouth, big mouth person. Everything that happens to me, I use it I use it. I take that and I try to use it in my work. If I'm writing a book, or if I'm writing a poem, or if I'm doing, something artistic. And that's just simply what I did. I took a situation, a real life situation, and I put it in this poem. White Lives Matter. So, and I said it in the context that white lives matter, even if they make those type of jokes. That was the context of the joke, or the context of the statement within the poem. And I said it's not a joke, but they matter, even if they're doing things that make you uncomfortable. They still matter, So that was my take on that. Next statement was probably even more controversial. I was at a football watching party. Alabama and Auburn were playing, and this guy who I considered a friend, I still consider this guy an acquaintance. But I was in his house, and I kid you not, I'm sitting at his bar, and I'm like the only black guy there, and it's probably like 30 people in his basement. I'm like the only black guy there, and this guy yells at the screen because Auburn jumped offside or something. He looks at the television screen and he yells at the top of his lungs, "Stupid fucking niggers." The whole basement goes quiet. Some of the girls, people are like aghast. Some people like run outside. They cannot believe that he said that. I couldn't believe he said that. I was stunned and shocked. I didn't say anything. I kept it to myself. I stayed calm, cool, and collected, and as if it didn't happen. And some people were very upset about that. And that was a very intense and tricky situation, because you've got somebody who has invited you over to their house and they yell this. And what are you supposed to do? Was I supposed to go and punch this guy for saying that? Was I supposed to try to fight him? Was I supposed to get up and storm out? Or was I right in just staying there and pretending that I didn't hear it? What would you have done? Okay. Um, about a week later, um, I was at another guy's house, and that's another white guy. He's a really nice guy. And he was telling me, he said, "Man, I would have killed him if he'd have done that to me." And I said to him, I was like, "Well, man, it, I don't let things like that bother me, because I know people are going to be people, no matter where I go. I live in a world where I'm a minority, and you're going to have situations like this if you live long enough, and if you live around, if you go to enough people's houses, if you go to enough parties, if you have enough friends from enough places, you're going to have these type of experiences, and you have to decide how to respond, how to react, and you have to decide what it is that um, drives you, and that moves you, and that makes you respond either in a way that allows you to maintain your dignity, you know. Um, so I like to say that I took the high road, because again, I was at this guy's house. I'm the only black person there, and mind you, these are not um, like trashy people. These are all high functioning. These are all business owners, entrepreneurs, lawyers, presidents, and vice presidents of companies. And it's this country club community. And but what are you going to do? You have to make a decision. And my decision was I internalized it, and I put it in a poem. I put that particular statement in this poem. And can that be considered hate speech from that individual? Of course. But am I being hateful by writing it down and using it in a poem? No, I'm merely indicating to the world that this is something that happened to me. And it hurt me, and I still think about it, but the only way that I can express it is by putting it in a poem and allowing you all to decide for yourselves how should I have responded. Maybe I should have responded differently. I don't know. But I responded by remaining calm and not responding. That was my response. And I really just want the world to know that that is a situation that happened to me, David Daniel Saxon Winter. And it was an expression of release. For me, this is a release. This is how I release and let it. This is my medicine right here. This is my medicine by giving this to the world. And I didn't mean to offend anybody, but that's, a true and real situation that happened to me. So, and yeah, man, so that's why I wrote that. And you guys decide for yourselves if that's hate speech or not, by simply writing it in a poem. Is it hate speech? I don't know. I don't think it is, but I don't know. Um, um, all right, so yeah, and he did, and again, he did apologize. So there was that, and he cried. He cried tears and apologized, and so I accepted the apology. Yeah, I accepted it. So So we move forward. So we keep on moving on. So that's what happened. And I wrote that there too, that he cried and apologized. All right. So, um, and then one of the lot, and moving on to the next statement, I put in this thing. Someone who works in the at the country club inside of the it's the little office where they sell the homes. My wife is friends with the lady that works there, and she was telling us that you have to be careful about some people in this neighborhood because my wife is very gregarious. She's like this social butterfly, and this lady was telling us, she was telling us, well, um, there's a lot of people in this neighborhood who will laugh in your face, but then stab you in your back. So just be careful. Don't be so open. Don't be so quick to tell people your business because people will talk and they will talk about you. And there's people here um, who pretend that they're not racist, but they are. And this was somebody in this neighborhood who works in the neighborhood who was telling us this. Well, not me, but they told my wife this. And but again, our response to that is that look, as long as people treat us nice, we will treat them nice. Um, if you push us, we'll push you back. But if you treat us nice, we don't go into a place looking for trouble or looking for things like that, looking for a reason to nitpick and to talk about people and to, um, because we know that there's different people in this world and everybody's one thing in the light and another thing in the dark. And we know that people have dualities, have multiple personalities, and very unique and interesting folks, you know, and they're not gonna always give you their all, especially if you're um, not like one of their intimate friends, So I give people the benefit of the doubt, people smile at me, I take that, and I hold on to that, and that's what I feel like um, I would like to remember them by, and that only, and not to concern myself for what they may do when I'm not watching or when I'm not looking. So yeah, I'll just leave that at that. But that was again words from someone else sharing with us their thoughts. I took that information, wrote it down, and gave it to the world. And I ended it all right by saying that this is really not a joke, and you still hang out with people, even though you know all of these things, all about all of these people. We still hang out in this neighborhood. We hang out with many people in this neighborhood. We are friends. We get invited to people's houses all the time, to parties. And a lot of times we're like the only minorities in this entire group. And those people matter to us in various ways. Um, they're our friends. And again, people have personalities that are varied, complex, big, um, multifaceted, interesting, and with a lot of really just curious energy that you're drawn to no matter what you hear about them. You want to be around some of these people. And again, it's just a scenario to where I know a lot of people that are high functioning who are who just so happen to be white people, and some Spanish people, from El Salvador, from Peru, from England. We have friends from all over the United States, from Canada, a couple from Canada, and a lot of these people, and all of these people are really wealthy, high functioning country club people, and they mean something to me. They've had a very positive impact on my life, and I don't mean to offend them in any kind of way. All I've done by writing this poem, however poorly written it was to inform myself, my audience, um, people I love, um, in my way, how the world is a very complex thing, something that we can all enjoy, something that we can all learn from, learn about, and continue to do that with the utmost integrity. And I'm just trying my best to internalize and externalize the things that I feel, I see, I've heard people tell me that I say, and write that down without being hateful, but just to inform people that these are the things that are inside of David Daniel Saxon Winter. And that's why I started this channel, Black Literary Fallout. No hatred, y'all. All love. But again, hate speech. What is hate speech? If I write something down and I say it in a poem, is that hate speech?